Hmm. All right. Hi. I'm Isha, as you probably already know, and I'm a feelings nerd and a feelings doctor. And I was called to do a series this week on difficult emotions, unconscious emotions that run our life, that run the background, run in the background and run our lives, in our love, in our work. And the people that I serve are mostly sensitive people, so this is oriented to those sensitive souls who do healing work and who are passionate people in the world, and certainly heart-centered, passionate about changing the world, shifting the difficult things in the world, light workers. So yeah, shame is a very protected, high sensitive emotion, right? High sensation emotion. And it runs so much of our thoughts. It runs our feelings about ourselves. It runs our behavior in our relationships, in our work, especially as healers. Because we're having to really step into our spiritual powers, healers, and that brings a whole mess of things that I'll get into in a second. So I want you to think as our unconscious or subconscious self as being sort of the basement of our house being our bodies. And shame is like the box that you have in the corner of the basement that hasn't been opened. It's kind of like there's some guard dogs in front of it that are very snarly, and it's really hard to get to. So it's that protected. And it is very vital energy. Usually when I work with people, I let people know that this is really vital energy and that you want to go into those dark corners, because in that, darkness, in that sort of what feels like, actually, when I experience it in my own body, it's almost like it's like a space where there's nothingness, right? It's not darkness. It's just like a nothingness. And so it feels really scary. But when you go in, when you when you move the energy of shame in your body, there's actually light in there. Because what usually gets shut down in the sensitive people that I serve isn't their badness. It's their light energy. It's life force energy that is vital to them as healers. So I'll talk about that in a second. Just want to distinguish between shame and guilt. Most of you know what the distinction is, but guilt is socialized from a place of obligation. So guilt says, I did something bad, I am not enough, I'm not a good daughter, things like that. But shame says, I am bad. And it's, hi Dan, it's really core, it's really central to our sense of self. So that's why it's so high sensation. It's really tapped into our nervous system. So letting shame move through your body, when you actually get to go through it, it feels like something's dying. And in a way it is, right? Some old belief that you have that's been keeping you small, or that's been keeping your talents hidden, that has to die in order for you to be able to use that light energy for your, in your love life, in your work. But it's like, I try to incorporate as much pleasure as possible in body work. And shame is just one of those things that you can't make it pretty. It's fucking hard. The only way to make it pleasurable is to lean into it as like pure pure experience, pure life experience. So, you know, sometimes, and this is not typical for the, you know, for the sensitive people that I work with, for the empaths and healers, but, you know, often what you might notice is that we tend to shame other people for the things we were shamed about in ourselves. Like, let's say that you're a sensitive person and maybe you don't own how sensitive you are. You might sort of ridicule other people or like look down on other people for being sensitive. So that's sometimes how shame shows up in our lives, and we deflect from ourselves and we sort of put it on somebody else. So the way a lot of empathic, sensitive, caring people are shamed is that they are shamed for their love and how caring they are and how sensitive they are. So we're made to feel like we're too much, or as you know, if you're male, you know, you maybe couldn't be sensitive if you were artistic. I know that in my culture, I had to wear a certain amount of armor in order to be able to survive in the world. You know, my parents, as well-meaning as they were, they thought that my sensitivity would get me like flattened, like people were just going to take advantage of me. So they tried to harden me up. But what the message that sent was that I was wrong for being sensitive. And especially like, you know, in thinking about growing up as a person of color in this country, like armor is necessary because you are living in a system of power that doesn't validate you, that doesn't allow you to be vulnerable and open and seen. So there's a real armor that needs to be constructed around your sensitive self. And maybe in your families of origin that was supported as well, and there was no room to sort of take that armor off at the end of the day and soften into vulnerability and love and sensitivity. So, you know, a lot of times the way that, you know, I have and a lot of sensitive folks manage their sensitivity is through addictions. And, you know, I use addictions in a broad sense. Like it doesn't necessarily need to be alcohol, although that's sometimes it's an option for people. But what I mean here is like soft addictions, like process addictions, such as screens, or we might be addicted to shopping, or food is a popular one, or maybe even like things like weed that are socially acceptable or more socially acceptable. So, you know, and then, you know, as women, and I'm speaking specifically to Latinx women here, and other women of color, Black women, that like this really exuberant, sensitive, open, innocent sexuality is often shamed. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen with white women. Of course, it happens with all women. We live in a patriarchy, but I'm talking about the intersectionality of how that really free, open, loving life force gets shut down in a lot of us. And so addiction is anything that you use to distract yourself from sitting with yourself. Exactly. Anything that takes you out of being with yourself is an addiction. And of course, we all escape ourselves here and there in different ways. And yet, you know, it's a matter of intensity and degree and the time it eats up in your life. Yeah, so, you know, my invitation every day this week is to stay curious, is to lean in. I remember, I'm just going to share really quick. I was really excited about doing group work, and I started to run small groups in my office in downtown New Haven. And I would tap into this energy while doing groups that was really exuberant, really excited, like, yeah, something that I didn't allow myself as a serious psychologist. I wouldn't really allow myself to be in that more playful energy. And when group would be done, we would say our goodbyes and people would be going into their cars. And as soon as I would get into my car, this this wave, this warm wash of shame would come over me. And it would say something like, what did you just do? I can't believe you just fucking, like, what were you doing in there? You said this and you said that. And it was very accusatory. It was very like this very intense voice in my head. And I would feel that almost like this dark cloak over me for a couple of days, like 2 days. And then eventually I would emerge, and then I would have my group again. And again, when I got into my car, it would come over me like, oh my God, you did it again. What are you doing in there? You're blowing your cover, like all this stuff. And, but it would only last for maybe half a day. And the third time that group would meet, I would only feel that for about, a couple hours. And so this experience of feeling it, of moving through it, actually just started to make more and more and more space for that energy to be there. So this moving it through your body is talking about it, it just doesn't get to it. Moving it through the body, as unpleasant as it is, I want to invite you to just hold the truth that there's light in there. There's powerful light in there. And that light is power. It's part of your life force. And it's part of the gift that you give to the world. It's probably your best quality, probably your best qualities. So the invitation is to go in and acknowledging that, we don't just come up with these experiences on our own, like the experience of shame, that this is, again, generational. We learn shame from our mothers, our fathers, our grandparents. Like, it goes back beyond our immediate personal experiences. So the invitation is to go in, allow yourself to feel even just a little bit of it, titrate it if you need to, and know that there's something on the other side of it. There's more of yourself on the other side of it. Hi, Sula. I approve of myself. Repeat 400 or more times daily. Yes. Yes. And it's not only affirmations, right? Like, to really have it be a mindset, and mindset, really holding yourself in that truth, the deeper truth, the intuitive truth, the soul level truth of who you are. Like, you are divine. You are divine. And to hold yourself in that divinity, even as you're moving through this, that has supported me in doing shadow work and work around shame. And obviously there's other experiences of shame that are less intense as trauma related shame. It's just like, things that we do or say, for example, like things around money, like scarcity beliefs. Like, sometimes people kind of enjoy being in scarcity because it's a high sensation experience. There's even a sexual charge around being in scarcity. And so having people own that can be sort of a lighter version of this experience of shame. Strong relation between shame and feelings of inadequacy. Yeah, exactly. The experience of not being good enough, being too much, imposter syndrome. ¿Qué más? There's other ones. But yeah, those are usually the ones. Feeling alone, loneliness, things like that. So this is the last day of the series. Again, like, I always invite you to come up in my DMs, ask me questions. I'm here to serve. Yes, owning our gifts. That is this is the one I really feel passionate about, because I know so many beautiful mujeres in my life who are healers and who are either have like a healing business or healing related business, or they're coaches, or like really beautiful souls. And their shame is around like bringing that out, sharing that, talking about it, owning the fact that they channel or that they're a medium and that they can't get visible and shine, really, really shine their gifts. So that's what I'm all about, is shining without shame. All right. Love you. I'm going to be as part of my shining, I'm going to be making a commitment to coming on live every week, at least once or twice. So, because it feels really good to connect with you all in this way. So I'm going to be doing it more often. All right. Love y'all. Bye.